All right, guys, so we're down here at the beautiful St. Mark Golf Club. We got Flight Scope Summer down here. There it is. And yeah, we're gonna do some testing today. This is gonna be how to hit the perfect draw. So what's up, guys? It's your favorite Kiwi coach. Let's go do this thing. All right, guys, so real quick, if you guys want to play St. Mark Golf Club, go ahead and hit the link in the description. We're going to give you basically the website, and then on that website, if you guys book online, you guys can get 10% off. So go ahead and check it out. It's a beautiful track. I mean, just look at the clouds, everything going on right now. So anyways, let's get into kind of the parts of this video. So the first part, we're going to be talking about what produces a draw in terms of ball flight laws. You've probably seen this in a bunch of other instructors' videos. We're not going to go super in depth with this, but just give you the basics. Once we get over that, we're going to go over kind of two types of ways to hit a draw. I know there's probably about 4 to 6 more that we could go over, but we're just going to go over again the basics. And then we're going to really try to get more into kind of the testing side, show you guys how to test. Obviously, we got Flight Scope down there, so it's going to be a little bit easier for us, but we're also going to show you, obviously, you can walk it off, and we'll show you some other ways. But anyways, the real message is how to test. So let's hop into this first part. All right, guys, how to hit the perfect draw. The first two elements, club path and face angle, right? You guys have probably all heard this before, but we're gonna go over it really quickly. So face angle, right, which is gonna be represented by this orange alignment stick, is where this sweet spot or the effective loft is pointing at impact, right? That's right when you strike the golf ball. Now club path is the same thing. It's the sweet spot. It's the effective loft, but where it's traveling at the moment of impact, okay? So those are obviously two separate. Now the relationship between those two is going to be what curvature, or basically what causes curvature, right? Now, there's certain other elements of ball flight laws that affect those two, as well as strike definitely affects curvature as well. So now, taking that in mind, two ways we can do this. The first way, which you've probably heard in other YouTube videos, is they want you to point the club face at setup to where the target is. From there, they want you to take a pretty neutral setup, if anything, maybe a little closed. And then from there, they want you to deliver a club face that's pointing slightly to the right of the target. So if we use an example here, I don't know if you guys will be able to see that from over there, but we're just going to do this quickly. Face is pointing slightly right of the target. Path is a little bit more right than that face. You get a nice little draw, right? That's the first way. Second way that you can also do this is you can take your typical path numbers. Let's say you're typically around neutral to maybe even a -1. Well, what you could do is you could technically have your alignment a little bit more to the right. So instead of aiming neutral to this ball target line or parallel, you could be aiming your body line slightly right, keep that path that is -1, and then just get the face a little bit more left than that, and you're gonna kind of hit like a little bit of a pull draw. So those are gonna be kind of the two ways that we're gonna talk about. We're gonna go test them out on Flight Scope. We're gonna hit about 10 shots for each pattern. We're gonna go one with the neutral setup, one with the closed setup, one with the neutral setup, one with the closed setup. We're just gonna be using a 8-iron for this test, and then from there we're basically going to gather the data, we're going to talk about it, and then you guys can kind of basically see how I test out different types of motions. So let's go hop into the testing mode. All right, guys, so before we explain the setup with the Flight Scope and kind of how we're going to test this out, let me kind of explain a little part that I think I missed out on that last little bit. So when I said the player should close his stance line or aim a little bit right at the target and then have a -1 path still, so here's the confusing part. So when Flight Scope or TrackMan or any measuring device is kind of measuring their path numbers, it's based off a straight line of where the sensor is lined up to. So keeping that in mind, when I say aim more right, in my mind I'm imagining that the Flight Scope or TrackMan is traveling with that alignment. It's not staying where it's at. Because if it did stay where it's at, path would still look like it's positive, right? And you guys are going to kind of see what I mean here in a little bit, because I just want to demonstrate that for you guys, just so when you guys do have a Flight Scope or a TrackMan, you guys are trying to do this test, or you're doing it with your teacher, you guys aren't going to be confused. You guys are going to kind of get what I mean. So before we get into the official test, let's kind of do that little tiny test, just so you guys can kind of see what I mean. So let's go do that real quick. All right, guys, so let's show you the example of kind of what I was talking about. So you probably won't be able to see it here, so I'm probably just going to put it up on the screen over here so you guys can kind of see the numbers. Now, on that particular shot, what did I do? That was the one where I aimed to the right, but I felt like I swung probably maybe if the Flight Scope was angled more off to the left, I swung about -2, right? But because the Flight Scope didn't shift with my alignment, it looks like I still have a positive path. So if you look at these numbers here, let's go through it. I have an 8.9 positive path to the right. The golf ball did draw, so my face to the target was right around 4.2 right? So I had a nice little 2-to-1 draw basically. Now, I would guarantee you if I aligned straight and swung the same way, I still would have hit a draw if I was trying to release it like I did, but I would have had a negative path. So hopefully you guys get that point. Because the flight scope did not shift to the right to where I was aiming and aligned with me, it didn't show that I had a negative path. Now the reason why this point is so important for this particular video is because we're doing two types of ways to hit a draw. I want you guys to know that when I am aiming to the right and I'm hitting that pull draw in there, I still would technically have a negative path, but because we're not moving the flight scope, we have a positive path. So hopefully you guys get that point. It's a super important point to get this video. And yeah, let's go through and now let's just do the basic testing, right? So this testing is gonna be me hitting 5 shots with aiming at the target and trying to hit the draw to where I have a aim at target, face a little bit right of the target, and then path a little bit more left than that. We'll see how good I am at it, right, with 5 shots. Let's go do it. Roller coaster in my mind, Addison buckle as eyes, just trying to make things right. Is it something I did? Let's just go over the basic stats, right? So again, you guys won't be able to see it, so the stats will be somewhere up here on the screen. Let's see, total carry average was right around 160. This is with a range ball, so roughly around 10% added to that is pretty close to normal. Like 175-ish to 170 is a pretty normal 8-iron for me. Let's see, lateral deviation was right around 9.2 average to the right. So I was missing it roughly around 36 feet to the right. Path numbers were roughly right around 6.7 right, so I was definitely trying to make sure I was in to out with that pattern. And then face to a target was roughly 2.8 to the right. So I did hit a couple draws in there. But I also hit some pretty big blocks as well. So that type of pattern, now I heard this on probably about 5 golf instructors videos, that was how you wanted to hit a draw, was aiming at the target. He said the better player's way to hit a draw was aiming at the target, get your path to the right of that, and then your face to the right of that, right? Which is what I just tried to do. Not very good. I've never hit a draw that way, to be honest. Actually, the way I typically hit a draw is a pull draw. So I typically, what I tend to do is I aim pretty far right of the target. Let's say for me right now, I'm gonna feel like I aim about 5 yards right of the target and do my normal swing. Now on flight scope, it's gonna show that I'm a more positive path just because of what we talked about earlier. But I guarantee it's gonna be actually more so closer to a neutral path if again the flight scope would have changed, but you're gonna see that my deviation in terms of towards the target is gonna be a lot tighter. And yeah, let's go do that testing real quick and I'll get back to you guys. All right guys, so just finished the second basically test, which was when I was there trying to hit the pull draw. So just bringing up the numbers, you guys are going to see exactly what I thought was going to happen. So I typically on the course hit more so of a pull draw.
Now, not necessarily meaning I'm swinging left per se. Even going back to the analogy, remember how we said if I were to shift the flight scope over to the left to match up to where I was aligning, I typically would say that I hit my draws more so with neutral error numbers. So
even though right now the flight scope is going to say that I was swinging probably like plus, yeah, it says I'm swinging plus 9.2 or something. If I would have shifted the flight scope over, I probably would have gotten closer to about plus 2 as opposed to plus 6 with the other one. And I probably would have been face roughly around 0 to -1, I would say, would probably be the average. But anyways, let's just go look at the flight scope numbers. So average carry was roughly right around the same, 157, 10% rule, literally within a couple yards of each other, 3 yards of each other. Now the biggest difference is going to be the lateral deviation, basically, or lateral average was 0.6 yards to the left. So I was a lot more accurate with the pull draw method, and that's what I thought was going to happen because that's typically how I hit my draws. I don't like to hit draws by aiming at the target and then trying to start it right and then drawing it back on target line. Whenever I try to do that, I feel like it makes me want to shift path pretty far to the right, and it also makes me feel like I can't release when I do that. So I tend to hit pretty big blocks out to the right or a couple overdraws to the left. So it's not really my favorite way to hit a draw.
I'm a very much more so type of player where I'm going to aim body lines right. Like let's say I have a 135-yard shot and it's a middle pin. I might aim about 10 yards right of the pin, start it a little bit left than 10 yards right, maybe start about 8 yards left, and then draw it back into the pin. That's more so my pattern of draw. So anyways, you can really see that in the numbers. Let's go hop into the office where it's a little bit more warm and a little more quiet. We're going to go over these in a little bit more in depth.
Alright guys, so that was the end of part one. Hopefully you guys enjoyed that video. As you can see so far, there's not only just one way to hit the perfect draw, right? So when you guys are watching YouTube videos, you guys got to be careful. In the next part, we're going to be in the office. We're going to be going over the numbers more in detail. You guys are going to see different styles of numbers, the groupings, all that good stuff. And then we're going to make some claims towards the end of the video. So if you guys haven't already, hit that little like button or smash it, one of the two. Leave me a comment, and as always, subscribe. Subscribe! We need subscribers!
I hate not